When temperatures reached 115 degrees, I discovered the limits of my Winnebago Ekko. What I believed was an unlimited off-grid setup was about to face the perfect storm. I want to start this video by saying that I avoid the heat like the plague. I leave Mexico in June to avoid the hot temperatures of Mexico, and I come to Montana because I don't like the heat. I did not purposely go camping in extreme temperatures. I was caught while driving north. Temperatures reached 115 degrees. I learned on this trip the limitations of the Winnebago Ekko in extreme temperatures. And that's what I will be sharing with you guys in this video. What I've learned, the mistakes I've made, and what I will be doing differently if it happens again. Hopefully it will never happen again. If you have watched my video, the hotness test, I'm very accustomed to camping in hot temperatures, in 90 plus degrees temperatures, where I don't have to use the AC. And if you have seen camping in extreme cold in the Winnebago Ekko, you also know that I'm very comfortable camping in extreme cold temperatures. In this video, we'll talk about my experience in 115 degrees, how the Winnebago Ekko handled or didn't handle 115 degrees, and hopefully you will learn something in your future extreme hot temperature trip. Let's get to it, right? I call this trip the perfect storm. To fully understand how everything evolved during this trip and how things went downhill, I need to break up the whole trip into day 1, day 2, and day 3, and day 4. I was mostly driving during the day, and the use of my AC was only going to happen at night when I was going to sleep. So I figured that during the day I would drive, recharge the battery, and then at night I would use the AC. I tested it on day 1 just to understand what kind of consumption I was going to have with the Winnebago Ekko, since I had never used the AC before. And on day 1 I stopped in one of my favorite places on the way north on the Sea of Cortez. Temperature wasn't yet that hot. It was probably like low 90s. I decided to see how much battery I would use in one night. It was about 9 hours. I ran at about 9 hours without putting the blanket barrier in the front and without raising the curtains. Starting with a van that was already warm because I had spent time at the beach with the dogs without keeping the AC on. And I wanted to mostly see what kind of consumption I would expect using the AC overnight. I turned on the AC, I went to sleep, I put it at 80 degrees so that it wasn't too cold. When I woke up in the morning, I was quite surprised. The battery on a 640 amp battery was down to 33%. And that was very surprising to me. So I decided to make adjustments for day 2. Day 2, I got on the internet and I tried to figure out what is the best way to run your AC on your rig. I've learned that a good way to save battery at night is to run the AC during the day while you're driving. So that's what I did. I ran the AC both on the chassis and then on the house. So I ran the actual AC that comes in the Winnebago Ekko. I ran it the whole day while driving, and then I pulled out in my next camping spot for day 2. This time I added the thermal blanket and I raised the curtains. So I started with a cold rig and I had thermal barriers, went to sleep. In the morning I woke up with, the temperature was around 95 degrees. So I had crept up a little bit more, was maybe a little bit higher than that, but it was still below 100 degrees. And when I woke up in the morning, I had 50% battery. So that to me was an improvement from the night before, where the temperature was not as hot and I woke up with 33% battery. that was a success in my experiment. And day 3 is when things were going to start becoming serious. Day 3, temperature rose to 110 degrees. I was driving all day, same thing. I kept the AC on, actually kept the curtains up as well so that the AC wouldn't work so hard to keep the temperature down. Driving through Las Vegas, I debated if I should have stopped and found a campground with hookups, but I decided to push the envelope and test the limits of the Winnebago Ekko and use my generator that I carry with me. It's a 2000 watt Honda generator, and seeing how my rig would handle with the generator and extreme temperatures. I did make one stop. I've learned that with the generator you want to have a 12 gauge extension cord, which I didn't have. I had a 14 gauge extension cord. So I stopped to a Home Depot, bought an extension cord, and I found this great little spot north of Las Vegas. And when I plugged in my generator and ran it, I realized that I was in trouble. 2000 watts generator works extremely hard to keep up with the AC. It felt like that generator was gonna explode. So I took the generator and moved it as far away from my rig, pulled all the curtains up, put my thermal blanket, and went to sleep with this generator that was just screaming. I didn't think that thing was gonna run all night, but somehow it ran, and it actually ran out of gas. And when I woke up, it was 70% battery left, which I was pretty happy with it. One thing I forgot to mention about the night of day 3 is that I set the temperature at 79 to make it feel like it was a little bit cooler than 80 degrees. And what I realized that the AC could not keep up with the temperature outside. The AC ran non-stop. The coldest that I could get my rig to was 86 degrees. Day 3, I learned that if you want to run the AC, you need more than 2000 watts. If you have a 2000 watt generator, you'll really be pushing it too hard. But on day 4, I have learned the true limitations of camping in extreme temperatures with the Winnebago Ekko. The temperature rose to 115 degrees. I started with a good amount of batteries. I had 70% when I started, so I felt pretty good about my batteries. I had the AC on like I always I had for the past 2 days as I'm driving. I decided to stop at the Virgin River, which is my dog's favorite place on the way north to Montana. So we stopped there for a couple of hours, and while I played with the dogs, I left the AC on. I figured it was a good way to come back and have a nice cool van in 115 degrees. So ran the AC for about 2 hours. I didn't even check the battery level when I got back to my rig, and just started driving. I figured that with the alternator pumping 175 amps or more of power, I was gonna be back at 100% in no time. While driving, one of my tires in my trailer exploded because of the heat. So I stopped, and turns out this nice guy, mechanic on wheels, saw it happen, and he pulled behind me and he helped me change the tire, which was super nice. And ran the AC while we did that. Maybe it took us another 40 minutes. And when I checked the battery, I was at 15%. That was a surprise to me because I had been driving quite a bit and I had started with 70%. I did not expect to have such low battery. What I have learned is that the system, and this is the big limitation that you have if you are planning to travel off the grid, if you're not hooking up somewhere, or if you don't have your generator in the rig, is that the battery, when you're starting with the battery that is already at 115 degrees, because that was the temperature outside, once the battery goes to 120 degrees, which it will because the alternator is charging the battery and it immediately increases the heat, and it goes from 115 to 120 degrees in like seconds. So what's happening with that battery is that it goes from 115 to 120, and then the system has a safety thing where it shuts down and it starts charging at 30 amps. And your AC is using way more than 30 amps. So you're slowly like depleting the battery, and your alternator is not able to recharge because it keeps shutting down once it reaches 120. At that point, I was in trouble because I was not going to be able to run my AC again. So decided to shut off my AC, and I was all the way down in Arizona, and I just decided to just drive and drive and drive and drive. I ended up going all the way north of Salt Lake City, and using Onyx, I found this beautiful camp spot on a lake, and the temperature was 70 degrees. So I opened up all my curtains, all my windows, and I slept in beautiful fresh air, and it was a beautiful night. Onyx is a great place to find places to camp, because I look for state land sometimes, or I look for BLM, and in this case was a piece of state land on a lake. Anyways, I would love to hear from you guys who are experts, who may live in Arizona or Texas or Florida or all the hot places in the US, and have experienced these extreme temperatures and maybe camp in extreme temperatures. One thing I do know about myself is that I will not camp in extreme hot temperatures again. And if I do, if I find myself stuck into those situations, I'll probably find a campground and plug in, because that's probably the best way to do it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next.